Am I the asshole for refusing to get rid of my 2 dogs for my husband's allergic love child? My husband had a one-night stand. After much counseling I decided to forgive him and work on our marriage. Unfortunately the woman got pregnant, and they now have a 3-year-old boy. I have 2 5-year-old French bulldogs whom I and my 2 kids with my husband, 14 female and 9 male. Unfortunately, being short-hair dogs, these kind tend to produce the most reaction in those who are allergic. I was fully prepared to welcome this child into my home with open arms and be the best stepmother I could possibly be, as the child is innocent and he is the little brother of my 2 children. My husband has visitation every other weekend. Unfortunately, this child is highly allergic to dogs, and his mother is demanding that we get rid of the dogs. These dogs have been with me through thick and thin. They were there with me when I suffered severe depression over my husband cheating, and my kids adore them too. I absolutely refuse to get rid of these dogs. I told my husband he can either do the visitation at a hotel, get a second apartment for him and his son, or we can build an in-law unit at his expense above the garage, but I told him my only stipulations are that this comes out of his own pocket. He may not dip into our kids' college funds and the dogs stay. Because the child is so young, he doesn't understand why he's not allowed to come to the house and feels left out as a result. Am I the asshole for refusing to get rid of my dogs because my husband cheated? When he was hemming and hawing because he wanted to be all things to all people, I told him I will divorce him well before I do away with the dogs. Keep the dogs. Get rid of husband. Not the asshole. Wild that the woman who had an affair with your husband thinks she gets to dictate to you what animals you can have in your home. NTA. Jeez Louise. The homewrecker is making demands? Seriously, she can go scratch herself. She's already been shown more grace by you than she deserves. Make sure your husband knows your promise to leave him isn't an empty threat. I told him I will divorce him well before I do away with the dogs. It might be time to just rip the band-aid off. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. The kid is 3. If he's feeling left out, that's because the adults around him are framing it as a problem rather than a super cool thing he gets to do with just daddy. That said, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the things you may not have fully thought through when you decided to accept your husband's affair. You may need to revisit that. Not the asshole. This is his problem and he needs to find a solution. Dogs aren't the ones who royally screwed up, so no need to punish them. Not the asshole. Your husband needs to figure out the logistics at his own expense that doesn't involve you having to get rid of your dogs. You've given him plenty of viable options. Am I the asshole for making my husband's accident about myself? My husband, 29M. Me, 26F. I'll keep this short. My husband got into an accident a few weeks ago while on his way home from work, and was rushed to the hospital. My mother-in-law called me and told me he was almost dying, and I freaked out. When I got there, the doctors told me he kept asking for his ex, and that they had to sedate him because he wouldn't stop freaking out because she wasn't there. I thought it was okay since the car crash was so bad, but the doctors told me it wasn't. He fractured his legs and there was a minor fracture in his arm. And he wasn't on any drugs either. He was saved from serious injuries, especially brain. I let it go at that moment because his health came first, but now that he's home and recovering, I can't help but be bothered by it. I brought it up last night, 3 weeks after the accident, and he went off at me saying I don't know what it feels like to be in that position and that I made his misery about myself. He said I don't understand the dynamic between them and what they had, so I should stop bringing it up, and that this wasn't about me, and that he was allowed to ask for her since he was hurt and she would calm him down. Then texted his mother, who berated me over it. She says my main priority should be caring for him till he's back on his feet. A part of me wants to be petty and leave and tell him to call his ex and ask her to take care of him instead. What should I make of this situation? I've been taking care of him and catering to all his needs, and I haven't even gotten a single thank you. Am I the asshole for bringing it up? From OP's comment. I waited 3 weeks to bringing it up. Till he was doing better mentally and physically. I asked him what his thought process was to be calling for her, and he just shut me out, saying I would never understand what they had, and that I should stop making his accident and his trauma about myself. Not the asshole. His response clearly shows he's trying to victimize himself and made no attempt to even say it wasn't intentional, showing no regard for OP's feelings while trying to make her believe she had no right to even think or question this situation. OP could have had no insecurity and just been curious, found it funny, but he point blank got defensive and turned it around on her just for asking. Not the asshole. You really need to get to the bottom of that. He should have said, I'm so sorry. I was out of my mind. I have no idea what I said. But instead he gets mad at you? Then enlists his mother to berate you? Seems like an extreme defensive reaction on his part. Do you have any reason to believe he's cheating with her? Wait, what? Did I read that right? Your husband was in an accident. Only wanted his ex, and when you said something you were berated and told your job is to take care of him? My suggestion is to leave and let his ex take care of him since he wants her so badly. Not the asshole. Not the asshole based on your comments. You really need to add to the main post what he said when you asked him about it, and add that it was 3 weeks after the fact. He knew what he was doing. If he wants his ex so bad he should get back with her. I would have a hard time moving forward with him after this. For anyone who didn't see her comment, when she asked him about it 3 weeks later, he said, I don't understand the dynamic between them and what they had, so I should stop bringing it up and that this wasn't about me, and that he was allowed to ask for her since he was hurt and she would calm him down. He clearly knew what he was doing. It wasn't drugs. It wasn't hysteria. Not the asshole you brought it up after waiting an appropriate amount of time. He dismissed you and then went and tattled to his mom, who yelled at you. Both his dismissal of your feelings and bringing his mother into your personal business to shame you are huge location flag. So not the asshole, you're his wife. Why is he calling for his ex and telling you it was something special that you don't understand? Yeah, he had an accident, but especially at a time like this he should be asking for you, not his ex. Honey, run. Just because he's hurt doesn't justify him not being over his ex. I'm not even married and I'd still ask for my current partner over me ex. Would I be the asshole if I go watch my son's last game of the season instead of my daughter's? My daughter, Emily 15F, and son, Tyler 13M, will be playing the final match of the season this Sunday in different locations. My daughter's team is fighting for the league title, whereas my sons have finished the league in 7th place regardless of their result in the final game. My ex-wife texted me yesterday with the location of the school hosting Emily's match and when to pick her up. When I asked her about Tyler's, she replied that he will be going with his teammate parents. When she texted me the location of Emily's game, I assumed that she'll be going with Tyler. But she told me we should both go watch Emily because she'd make us proud. I told her that it's just a kids' game and we shouldn't let our son alone on the last match of the season just because of pride. She replied that Tyler wouldn't probably even play because for the last few games the coach only bring him in the last 15 minutes of the game. I really couldn't believe what I was hearing. Some info on why. My son got an ankle injury in January and only returned to the team last month. That's why he's been sidelined and only play the last few minutes of the game. Because even professional soccer players don't play 90 minutes each game after coming back from an injury. When I told her about my decision, she kept screaming about how I wasn't taking girls' sports seriously because I would rather watch a meaningless match that our son wouldn't probably even play in rather than seeing Emily win the trophy. I told her goodbye and hung up because it felt like talking to a wall because she was deliberately ignoring what I was saying. I tried reaching my daughter but she wouldn't answer my calls nor respond to my texts. I called Tyler telling him that I'll be going with him to his game and asked him to give his sister the phone to explain myself to her. He told me that she doesn't want to talk to me and that she's been crying since she found out. He then told me in a disappointed voice that I should go watch her game because his was meaningless and afterwards just take him to the beach or whatever. I know that he was pressured by his mom because of his voice and because the last word he'd choose to describe a game with is meaningless. It's also the same word my ex said to me, and because of how much he loves soccer. Sorry, but you are the asshole. Your son is riding with other people to an obligatory end-of-season game where he will likely not spend much time playing anyway. He is also a couple years younger and will have plenty of future matches. This was a championship game for your daughter, where she is an active player, and it obviously means a lot to her to have you there. And listen, your ex doesn't give a flying fuck about having you there. She was advocating on behalf of your daughter who seems devastated. I'm sure you had the best intentions, but sometimes things aren't equivalent and you need to give the day to one kid over another. This time it should be your daughter. Your son is right. Pressed or not, you can do something with him after. You are the asshole. Stuff happens in life and parents miss games. You are making it sound like your ex-wife committed some giant crime. She did not. There will be more games. Your daughter's game is a bigger deal. It's not bad for your ex to choose to attend that game. And your son surely can understand that. Bottom line, you aren't married to this woman anymore. You don't get to criticize her choices. Info. Have you been to both kids' games this year, and has your wife? How have you two handled previous weekends when they both have games at the same time? You sound like you care more about your son's feelings than your daughter's. You didn't suggest to your wife to go with your son's game. The point is that you wanted to go to your son's game. It's obvious who is your favorite and your daughter saw it. Not the asshole. One parent at each game seems to be the most reasonable plan of action here. Brushing off one child's accomplishments to focus on the other is a needless cruelty. You are the asshole. You only started this argument when you were told to take Emily there. You made a unilateral decision instead of talking it out with your family. Your kids are already in an uncomfortable situation without being pawns in a fight. The way you talk about your ex is really uncomfortable, and brings up a lot of questions about your past behavior. Especially blaming her for the feelings your kids are expressing. This reads as if you saw an excuse to pick a fight, jumped on it, then ran to Reddit for validation. Am I the asshole for cooking scraps for dinner? I, 27F, cooked my boyfriend, 41 meters, scraps for dinner. We need to go grocery shopping but have leftovers in the fridge from last night which I assumed would be eaten this evening. These leftovers are uncooked burger patties, pasta salad, and grilled corn. At 7 p.m. this evening boyfriend asked what I was making for dinner. I reminded him of the leftovers. He said I was throwing a hissy fit over not wanting to cook him a good meal. Then he said he'd probably just eat crackers or something and he'd have to figure it out himself. Then he fell back asleep. After he fell asleep I felt horrible so I cooked up some rice, ground beef, peppers, onions, grilled some fresh corn and mixed it all together with some homemade chipotle sauce, then baked it with some cheese to melt. When I presented it with him he wouldn't even taste it. He asked if I got fresh ingredients at the store or just used what we had. I told him I cooked everything fresh but it was bought yesterday. The corn hadn't been cooked before, the pepper hadn't been cooked before, etc. It was all extra ingredients that I hadn't used yesterday. He then told me I ruined his night further by not listening to him and letting him make his cracker meal, and a horrible girlfriend for trying to serve him scraps. I insisted that it's not scraps but he kept yelling, scraps, and told me to leave him alone to starve. Should I have played this differently? Was I really that bad for making him this? Or am I the asshole for not listening to his cracker thing? Or is he just in a mood and being a jerk? 1. Why was it your job to cook? 2. Why is your boyfriend too good for scraps? 3. What's so wrong with eating crackers if he doesn't like what's on offer? Does he think it's cannibalism or something? Not the asshole. Guy sounds like a nightmare. I'm so confused. First off, does he think people go to the store every single day? Second, girl, what the fuck? Third, what the hell happened to you in your life that you think being talked to and treated like this is acceptable, or that it could possibly make you an asshole? Fourth, girl, again, what the fuck? Not the asshole, but you should definitely scrap the BF. Please dump this abusive asshole. Red Flag City. The age difference, the expecting, the best, the insulting you as a partner, acting like a child and saying he would rather starve. Sweetie, run away and never look back. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. My God, doesn't everyone eat leftovers? Sounds like he's the one throwing a hissy fit, and if he wanted more than crackers why the hell didn't he make it himself? I don't know why you wanted to appease this jerk by going ahead and making another meal, which he groused about anyway. If doesn't appreciate your cooking, tell him to make his own meals. This man sounds like he is taking advantage of you. I'd break up with him. He is not a nice person.